All right. Are
Hello.
we a ho or a ho ho or a ho ho ho?
I'm needing an infusion of hoe because
Okay.
I'm having a hard time. I need a hoe transfusion.
Okay. What's going on?
What were your beverages that you were debating over there?
I have coffee in a coffee cup, if we're going that way, or White Claw. Can go
Well,
either way.
it's 8:30 in the morning here, so I definitely cannot be starting off with the ruby grapefruit white claw. So I
Okay.
think I've coffee, but
Going coffee.
um the 20-something-year-old me would definitely respond to this situation with some white claw instead of with the coffee, but the
Okay.
46-year-old me is gonna pick the coffee.
So we're more adult now. Okay.
Is that a latte?
Um, it is Nespresso, but we've got that milk thing, foamer.
That is so appealing.
Mm-hmm.
I really want that. I want to crawl
Yummy.
through the screen and take it out of your hands.
And the mustache.
I like the mustache. Um, oh man, I'm having some real parenting struggles.
So what's going on?
Um, well, I just came from crucial conversation number 2 with my 12-year-old.
Okay.
And it's gotten bad enough that I felt I needed a witness, so I made my husband sit there during it. It began last night. Well, it began at birth, but it really it began at birth when she was born, the middle child.
Okay.
um, but she has a narrative that is defaulted to how have I been wronged? How have I been shortchanged? How have I been insulted? And when she feels triggered by those things, she lashes out. She's very disrespectful. And she was last night when we were trying to watch Lethal Weapon and do Christmas cards. And what's happened up to this point is that I give her consequences and then I feel bad because I love her and I don't want her to have a bad consequence. And, I take things away like dance, which is her lifeblood. And then I feel bad. And so I give it back. And so I've been really inconsistent. And I feel kind of held hostage by her and the kind of the family dynamic because if she's pissed off, everybody knows it. And so last night I told her I'm done doing that. We're gonna, you know what? If you want to battle, let's battle. Bring it. I actually stood in her doorway and said, "Bring it. Like really, bring it. I'm ready because this isn't working." And I took her dance away, and I took her phone, and then then I go into the parenting down the parenting shame chute. Thank you. Just had a delivery of Cheerios.
Great.
Not nice.
You need cheer.
Yeah. I need some cheer and some hoe.
Yeah. Cheery hose.
Cheery hoes. That's right. That's us. Actually, I'm definitely not a cheery hoe, but I would like to become maybe by the end of this session.
All right. So that's our goal, is to be
That's
cheery hose.
Cheery hoes. Oh my God, I love that. Anyway, so calmer heads prevailed. I didn't yell last night. Like in my worst moments, I lose my own temper, which is the worst, right? I'm like when you spank your kid for hitting someone, right? Like when she gets really mad and then I also get mad and we're both mad and yelling. Like that didn't happen last night, but So I went for my morning walk in the dark. It's so dark. Is it so
Yeah,
dark where you are?
yeah, it is. And like 22 degrees. It just sucks.
Okay, we're still in the 40s. We're not in the
Oh,
20s yet, but yeah, that sucks. And so I went for a walk in the dark with my husband and I talked through my strategy and he kind of gave me some notes. He's already been through developing teenagers once with his ex-wife. And we had a summit in the bonus room. I told her that I haven't been being the parent I want to be by being so inconsistent, and that I'm going to be consistent, and she's not going to like it. And I said, I don't expect that you're going to take away from this conversation the things that I am trying to convey to you, because regularly you later tell me I said things I didn't like. She tells me that I think she's a monster, that she's a bad person, and that's not what I'm telling her.
mm-hmm.
But overall, I think it was as good as it could be. And she heard me, which is different than listening.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
man, parenting is hard.
It's really hard. Yeah. And
Add a pandemic, and I don't know.
yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm thinking I don't want to coach, but just want to talk mama parent to mama parent. Even though I don't know your children at all, I really just want to give you a little hope because I've got three, 23, 21, and 14, girl, boy, girl. And I won't pretend that they're all alike either. But just as you describe it and what's going on, that age of 12, even if she has been an independent soul since birth, and even if she's always looked at the downside, or even if she's always tried to lay out traps for you, just don't forget that's such a super hormonal age. And what I found with both my girls is that during that super hormonal time, the only people they can act out with is their family, and especially the mama bear. And, they try so hard to be part of the crowd with their friends, which is really hard right now, and great with the teachers, or as best they can. And sometimes, even though it sucks and it's hard and it's unfair, the only relief valve they have is at home and with you.
Mm-hmm. I'm definitely
And
experiencing that.
yeah, and they are just trying to figure out the boundaries a little bit, but they're also just trying to vent a little bit. And sometimes they just want a little attention.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we had all kinds of yelling, screaming matches. Our oldest walked out the door and walked, down the block when she was maybe 10 or 11, almost 12. We weren't really sure where she went, because she was really angry, and we let her go for about 15, 20 minutes and then started, circling around and found her. And what I finally figured out was sometimes they just want some attention, and they really are just wanting a hug. And they just really want to know, they want to know you care. And so sometimes that fight will just melt
Mm-hmm.
if you just sit down with them and put your arm around them and ask what the hell is really going on here.
Mm-hmm. I've had that happen a couple times with her, where, like you said, there she's so angry, and then what turns out is under the anger is pain
Mhm.
and a lack of self-confidence, right? And um, it's hard to know which approach to bring in the moment, like what's going to be effective versus what's going to make it worse. And one of the things I was talking with Ian about on our walk is, as a parent that's also a human, where does our reasonable expectation of being just treated kindly as a human, where does that stop and start? Because as you said, I am the safe person in her life to lash out at. And I also hold the keys to all her happiness and opportunity. I'm the one that does it all for her.
Mhm.
And I watched my mom raise 5 kids and really just sublimate her own needs or a reasonable expectation of being treated kindly. And
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
didn't help us.
Right.
But and so there's part of me that's, when I said this to her this morning, and I said it to Ian this morning in the dark on her walk. I love her.
Sure.
I'm her biggest fan.
Sure.
Also love myself.
Mhm.
And I don't believe I deserve this treatment. And I don't believe that I should just take it.
Yeah.
I
So
deserve happiness too.
agree completely. And one thing I learned by our third was to kind of sit down in a good moment and have the conversation about boundaries and consequences and acknowledge I am the mother and I love them deeply by the third and said, these are the boundaries I think are fair. And so if you get to bed by this time, all's good. If you don't, this would be a consequence. And we kind of bartered and negotiated. But then it also gets into, and I want to know that you love and appreciate me too. So if we're having a great time, all's good. But if there becomes a sort of behavior, this will be the consequence. And we kind of negotiate it. That way they know up front. And you can bring your husband into it or your ex-husband into it. So you can all agree when this kind of thing happens, this is the consequence. And then put it back to her. She's then making a choice when she decides to act a certain way or when she decides to break a rule. And then no one will be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
And it will help hold you accountable too, because your husband and your ex and she will all know this is what you all agreed to. And it makes it a little bit more objective.
That makes a lot of sense, we did do some negotiating this morning because had taken dance away, but this is the week of all the dance festivities and your secret sister and all that business.
Mm-hmm.
And so she said, would it be possible for me to lose my phone for 2 weeks instead of one, and but still be able to attend dance? And
Mm-hmm.
I said, yeah, but based on what's transpired to this moment, yeah, if you do these, and I talked about it being in word and in deed, because some of the disrespect toward me comes in deed. I do so much for these people
Mm-hmm.
on top of having a job.
Mm-hmm.
I make them usually like 3 meals a day.
Mm-hmm.
They get their laundry done for them. It's like we have a house cleaner that comes in,
Mm-hmm.
and yet she'll leave 20 dishes in her room.
Yeah.
Despite, and so I said part of the disrespect is in, like, I feel treated like I'm a maid here, and I'm not going to take that anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you
Yeah. I would try to get as much down as possible without being too crazy about it. And I would post it up.
we have it posted, well,
But
it came
but
down when we moved.
yeah.
Morning steps, aka is the title of the document. Morning steps, aka shit I gotta do every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Know it.
And then if not done, what? So what? What's the so what? What's the consequence?
Yeah. Well, I just told her if you're not doing your morning steps, you don't get your phone. So instead of you just waking up and coming downstairs and grabbing your phone,
Mhm,
you gotta do your morning steps and then say, Mom, I did my morning steps. Okay, cool. There's your phone.
mhm. Yeah,
That's the new boundary that we just set today.
yeah,
But can I tell you something?
yeah.
I don't know why this is, but I wonder if other moms feel this way too. Like when these kinds of things happen in my house, I feel like I'm the only one it's happening to.
Hmm.
Like I'm the only parent that can't find that right balance of boundaries with their kid. And so when I heard you tell me about your oldest leaving, like walking away from your house, I cannot stress the amount of relief
Oh, good.
that gives me. Like, oh God, okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Because
yeah.
no matter what I say, no matter what I might say on my walk or even to my kid about I love myself too, right? And I think I'm being, relatively reasonable, not perfect. I say I think I'm reasonably good. I think I've done a lot of bad, stupid shit too as a parent. And I gave her some examples, like I was too crazy intense about softball. But even though I might say I think I'm a reasonably good parent, deep down, I'm like, who let me be a parent?
Which is also normal since birth.
I should not be in charge of other humans.
I
Like,
mean, don't we all walk out of the hospital feeling that way?
yes,
Yeah, and it doesn't go away, and it doesn't go away with the first one. The second one's different, the third one's different, and we're dealing with people. It's emotional, it's hard, it can change on a dime. Um, and 12-year-old, I've got a 14-year-old. They just don't see the stuff. They don't see the dishes. They don't see it pile up. They just don't see it. So sometimes it's just taking their little body quietly and positioning it, putting their head down.
speak of the devil. Hi, Mia. Love you.
Yeah. And they don't see everything you do for them. So here's another story about my oldest.
Tell me a story, please. I
She
love your
was
stories.
she was so independent and obstinate since 7. Um, she got into high school and Mike had to take the door off of her room because just slammed it constantly. And her room was disgusting. Even her grandma was like, "How in the world do you live in this kind of place? And you were not raised this way." But we decided we'd just pick our battles,
Mm.
and if she wanted to live in a slop room where she couldn't find anything and it made her late to school every day, that's her decision. It was really hard, but her decision. Expected everything, disrespected us, we felt. Um, when she was 22, she and her boyfriend decided to go to Disney World for the weekend. And I was like, wow, oh, okay. She didn't ask for money. She'd saved up. She was, made the plans. So on the way home, they're driving back and she called and she was bawling. And I was like, "Are you okay? Have you gotten in a wreck?" She goes, "No, I just wanted to tell you that at the first lunch at Disney, I realized how much you had done for us all of our life, how much you'd supported us financially. My boyfriend and I could barely afford anything else the rest of the day after paying for just lunch there. And I wanted to tell you how much I appreciate everything you've always done for me."
That's going to make me break down and sob right now.
Mhm. And yet, hear me loudly, there's a long time span between the age of 7 and the age of 22.
You said to deliver it to her. Yes, I will. Okay.
Mhm. And now she's one of my best friends, and we talk almost every day, not because I call her. but because she calls me quite a bit. She is very responsible. She's living independently in Chicago. She manages her money very well, and she's so thoughtful about everyone else.
So there's hope.
Absolutely. Yes. Raising a child in the teen years and the early 20s, I think, is more difficult than those newborn years. And I think that's when they need our love and support and our boundaries to
Mhm.
be well articulated and to stick to them, because they need boundaries, they need rules with love and compassion to support them more than anything else right now. Um, and they will thrive. Um, also, think about the fact that they can get really mad at their best friend 1 hour and
Mhm.
invite that person over an hour later. So the anger and the fights that you might experience with a 12-year-old, try not to overthink it and over magnify it into something as if you were having that kind of fight with your husband or an adult. And they can just shift from minute to minute.
I think that's a really important point, and I need to try to remember that because I do with all of them, but especially with my two girls, because I have more conflict with them than I do my son.
Mhm,
But when when it happens, I tend to extrapolate it, into and project it
mhm.
to have probably more meaning than, as you said, it should. I mean, my 7-year-old is like a puppy, so she gets yesterday. It was probably because she gets so angry when she's doing her schoolwork. She did school for 8 hours yesterday, not because there was 8 hours of school worth doing. It was because everything took forever.
Yeah.
But she got so mad, and then like, so mad, and then 30 seconds later, she's like, "Mom, oh my gosh, it's Christmas. I'm so excited to eat gingerbread houses with you."
Ah,
God, you're like schizophrenic. It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
it's normal. And
Yeah.
anger is not a bad emotion. There's really not a bad emotion. Anger is just anger. And sometimes we need to express anger just like we express joy. And anger sometimes gets us moving along faster than anything else. But they truly can. They've got more control of their emotions than we do and feelings, and they'll express them and move on. Meanwhile, we're trying to understand what was it they were really feeling and what did they mean by that? And is that going to impact their whole life? And oh my gosh, and am I a horrible parent? And what have I done?
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to be judged by all those other moms and the teachers?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All
Just
that.
flare up. Think about boys in particular. They'll duke it out and then go play a game together.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So sometimes maybe there don't need to be all these consequences. Sometimes you just got to let, a little flare up happen and occur and sit in the moment with it. Say, okay, are we done with this?
Mm-hmm.
Or what's it going to take to be done with this?
Mm-hmm. I don't have that balance figured out yet because I feel like what I've been doing is allowing those, like, I've been erring too much on the side of it's fine for you to just unload your anger and walk away and not have any true consequence for it.
Okay.
And I think the other thing though is that, you know, again, I don't have the answer yet here, trying to work through it, but when you have humans that are able to, which is what I have three children who are able to go out in the world and be respectful, appropriate, good natured. They're able to fit into the norms, when
Mhm.
they go outside the house. It's inside the house where it's like,
So that tells me that you're doing it right. If you weren't doing it right, you would be hearing from others, adult others especially, that, something might be going on, or we're a little concerned about this, especially the teachers would say, we're really struggling with this or that.
in this case, I'm that adult. I
Right?
need to be like this or
You're
not.
on the inside.
Yeah,
So
I'm.
any adult on the outside that they encounter, if they're saying, "Oh, they're such a joy to be around, and they're so polite, and they're so responsible," and I just always, love to be with your children.
Yeah,
You
I hear it all the time.
are, you're doing it right.
But see, I want to enjoy being with my children too.
Yeah, and you will. So what percentage of the time with your children do you enjoy versus have these kind of struggles?
I don't know, because it's probably, I was trying to think about like the pre-pandemic versus now. It's probably 70-30,
Okay.
maybe 60-40 with my middle kid.
Okay. So in
Yeah.
all cases, it's more positive than not.
Yeah, it's overall, yes. And that's what you're reminding me of right now. And that's the thing I think too, that you're kind of, you said you weren't coaching, but you're kind of inviting me to consider. And that is that the moments of conflict and disconnect, they feel bigger than they are. And so I need to take the magnifying lens off. That's what I think I'm taking away from this conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. We always feel the negative more than the
Mm-hmm,
positive. So step back and really assess it and assess how often are you spending individual time with each of them,
mm-hmm,
which I know
mm-hmm.
is really hard right now. It's hard
Yes.
always because we're busy, but it's harder right now being quarantined. And yet, that's a really good investment with your kids, is just to have that one-on-one time.
Yeah, I
And
do have it with the two, with my oldest and my youngest.
okay.
I need to invest it more in my middle. She's so busy though, between she's got her jewelry and card making business and dance, and
Mhm.
so sometimes it's hard to just like get them out of their rooms.
And maybe that's part of it, Liz. She's just worn out. She's tired.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she's got a little too much going on, or maybe she's got too much other stuff going on and not enough mom time.
Mm-hmm.
And so she'll lash out. And she probably doesn't even understand it.
No, no, because she's 12.
She's 12.
All right, well, let's assess ourselves. Are we feeling like cheery hose? I'm definitely cheerier.
Cheerier ho.
Cheerier than I
Okay.
was when I woke up, and than I was the beginning of this conversation. I think that's one of the things like that coaching is so good for, is just getting perspective.
Yeah.
Right? It's like to me, it's always the first thing is feeling seen, feeling heard, and then it's okay.
Yeah.
What perspective can I glean?
Yeah.
You know?
And I think coaching also just adds this discipline of reflection and pausing, moving a little slower than any one of us would otherwise. And maybe that's one last tidbit I will highlight for you. You are an excellent coach because you listen and you go, that's interesting.
Mhm.
I do wonder when things flare up with your kids, rather than immediately reacting with I'm going to take your phone away now, or I don't appreciate this. And so I'm going to do this. Just go, that's interesting. And give
Mhm.
yourself permission to think about what's going on for a day or so.
Mhm.
And give yourself permission
Mhm.
to decide, sleep on it. There's no
Mhm.
harm in sleeping on it
Mhm.
and saying, this is how this hurt me. And I
Mhm.
thought we'd agreed to this and that. I've thought a lot about it. And then have that one-on-one conversation with privately with her.
Mhm. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I mean, I need to that's the same thing that I'm criticizing her for is what I'm also doing, reacting in the moment, you know. So,
Mhm. Yep, because you're both probably tired and stressed and
yeah.
hormonal to some extent. And
Yes.
when hormones clash in an enclosed
Mhm.
home,
Mm,
it can be kind of scary. It can be
mm,
scary for the other kids and the poor husband. Good
mm,
Lord.
mm. We got a lot of hormones in our house, not just female ones too.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah.
A lot of hormones. Oy, oy, oy. Um, all
So on a
right, well,
scale of 0 to 10, cheery ho ho ho. How are you, Liz?
I'm gonna go with 2 out of 3 hoes.
2 out of 3 hoes is not
Two.
bad.
It's not bad. It's not
Yeah.
bad.
Ho ho.
Something to something to build on.
All right. Well, I want to know next week if you're at a ho ho ho.
I'll be in search of my third hoe.
Awesome.
Okay.